If the measure of acceptance before God is kind of like a graded on the curve morality, then that kind of objection would make complete sense. But like I said before, you have to have the right assessment of the problem before you can get the right solution. If you are under the impression that living better than the next guy, or better than the status quo, or at least at the status quo and not as bad as the worst guy, is what matters before God, well then, of course, it would be foolish to make certain claims, the kinds of claims that Christianity makes, over and against other people of other religions who have, arguably morally superior lives. There are a lot of people of other religions who have a lot more morally superior life than me, but that's hardly the point. The hospital can be filled with people that are sick, and some could be really sick and some not so sick, but they all have a disease that needs to be cured. There are no perfectly healthy people living when it comes to moral things, because everyone has violated the law in some fashion. And see, this is why I think the Ten Commandments is so helpful, because the Ten Commandments represent kind of a snapshot of moral requirements. For the person who thinks, well, I'm really not that bad, I'm better than the next guy, I mean, why wouldn't God accept me? You start, okay, what are God's standards? And you can start going down the list. Have you ever put anything before God in your life? Have you always honored him as you ought to? Have you ever disobeyed your parents? Have you ever taken something that wasn't yours? Have you ever wanted something that wasn't yours, coveting? Have you ever wanted a woman that wasn't yours, to the men? And, you start going down this list, and that's when people start squirming, because they realize no matter how good they have been, there are all kinds of violations of just those 10. Notice that none of those speak of pride. Yet we know pride is a vice, not a virtue, and it's one we all participate in. So it didn't even touch on the biggest one. When you start getting into the details, when you let God's standards begin to inform your behavior, you realize, gosh, I'm not doing so well. I'm not doing as well as I thought I was. And this is the point. You may do a lot better than me. Somebody else may, of a totally different culture, different religion, can do 10 times better than both of us. But that's hardly the question. People say, well, I'm no Hitler. And I say, you're right, but you're no Jesus Christ either. And you're probably a lot more like Hitler than you are like Jesus.